Mercedes have once again been caught hiding a secret trick within their W15, and it's all to do with the front wing. But not the front wing right now on screen. We're talking about the front wing in which they introduced in their upgrade package at the Monaco Grand Prix with George Russell. Now, this isn't the first time this season Mercedes have been caught hiding an upgrade or a trick or a system within their W15 which has helped bring them and edge them closer and closer to their leading pace this year. The first time, of course, was in Austria with their brand new introduction of the front suspension of a new heave damper. Now, while that may be completely legal and didn't need to be cleared, there's a lot of discourse surrounding this front wing, which has now finally come under the microscope thanks to both Red Bull and Ferrari. And the issue is the levels and amount of flexing that is occurring with it at certain points and speed levels throughout a lap across every single circuit that we go to. Now, while flexing on parts and front wings isn't exactly new, what the issue is here is it's surrounding what the wording of the FIA's technical regulations were for 2024 and whether it's in the spirit of the game. But why are Mercedes and McLaren, who they themselves have their own flexi front wing, are actually introducing the levels of flex that they have done? What is it that is achieving for both the MCL38 and W15 across both cars? Now, essentially what this is all about is helping the balance of both the MCL38 and the W15 around the course of the lap through all the different speed range of corners. And it's all to do with the load produced by the front wing and what is being introduced at different speed ranges. So essentially what both McLaren and Mercedes are trying to engineer with when this flexing is occurring is to decrease the load on the front wing, and this is mainly in the high-speed corners. So what you're generally seeing is when you're in high-speed corners, the front wing, the top elements on the front wing are going to be a lot less rigid, a lot less stiff, and they're going to be flapping a lot more through high-speed corners, and this is making sure the balance is in a much more optimal position, because what is happening without the flex is the elements are staying very rigid, and this has been introducing oversteer in the high speed corners. Now it's the complete opposite in terms of what you're looking to get in slow speed corners. So in slow speed corners within this ground effect era of Formula 1, there's a lot more understeer that has been introduced across all 10 Formula 1 cars in 2022 up until 2025. And to counteract that, what the Mercedes and McLaren front wing is doing at this level of speed range is making sure that the front upper elements are extremely rigid. So they're not moving, they're not flexing. And this is helping to introduce more load and more downforce on the front wing at this slow speed range. And this is then of course helping the understeer. It's basically reducing the levels of understeer which are occurring in slow speed corners. So it's a very fine balancing act between having to engineer when the levels of flex are occurring at different high speed and slow speed in terms of the ranges. That is happening across all the Formula 1 circuits, and a lot of time and resources and finance has to be placed into your year to be able to introduce such a front wing. And this is potentially why both Ferrari and Red Bull want this ban for next year. They don't want to spend the time and resources on introducing such a front wing. But before we go any further on with the video, I'm trying to hit my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. So if you're enjoying the content thus far and also want to be the first to know about some of the secrets F1 teams hide, such as Mercedes' updated front suspension in Austria, which I covered a whole 2 weeks before the official F1 channel, subscribe to this channel now. Now, initially before the introduction of these flexi front wings, both of these cars had a little bit of understeer generally in slow speed and a lot of oversteer in Mercedes' case in high speed. This is the whole reason why Mercedes have invested a lot of time and resources and money into introducing this front wing when they arrived at Monaco. This has helped solve and cure the majority of these issues and has enabled them, as we've seen throughout the season, to edge closer and closer to that leading pace. And of course, before the summer shutdown, they won 3 out of the last 4 races with George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. So this is a hugely advantageous front wing design to have on any Formula 1 car up and down the grid. And it's the whole reason we've had a lot of talk about why Red Bull and Ferrari want to get rid of it. Now that's talk for another time, and it will not be happening in 2024. That could potentially arrive for 2025 when they reword the technical regulations on the front wing for the levels of flex introduced at given moments. And the benefits don't just end with on-track action. Of course, there's a secondary benefit, which is all about how you set your cars up and the wing and drag levels you place on respective cars up and down the Formula 1 circuits. It enables the setups and the wing levels to be more fully optimized for the given racetrack that we're on. Before this front wing, Mercedes were having to compromise vastly in one set of speed ranges of corners. They're either setting the car up more towards high speed or more towards low speed, and this of course is going to have a knock-on effect of having very poor speed and going very slowly through all the other ranges of the lap. And so they were having a hugely compromised setup to run throughout the races. And this came to a head, as I just said, in Saudi Arabia. And I think now, looking back, this is one of the things James Allison was referring to with regards to that kind of eureka moment. Not only with the front suspension, but also with the front wing flexing. And of course, the levels of competitiveness prior to the front wing being introduced and after is vastly different. The contrast is absolutely ridiculous. Mercedes were the 5th fastest team before the front wing was introduced, and now you can say weekend in, weekend out, they're there or thereabouts as being the quickest. And if they're not quickest, they're within a 1/10 or 2 of the ultimate pace on a given weekend. Except over the last 2, which they've been characteristically of recent times quite a bit off the pace. So as you can see, this was a hugely advantageous hidden secret within their front wing, not only for them but for McLaren, which has enabled them to close the gap dramatically and improve their lap times, their pace, their race pace in comparison to that of Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren. So a very, very important discovery has been made by both Red Bull and Ferrari. And of course, as I mentioned, they do want to have this removed from the cars for next season. So there's a lot left to be discussed and talked about with the FIA and teams for 2025. Alright guys, that is the video. I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you've all enjoyed it. If you have, do leave a like. Comment down below anything with regards to this. And of course, if you're new and have enjoyed the video and content in it, subscribe down below and turn on notifications. Right, all of you, I will see you all later with another Formula 1 video.